Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie vlog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we've got just Dork Side is just the gift that keeps on giving, because today, just in the wake of us finding out that there is a very good chance, I know that there have been some people on Twitter especially who've tried to say that the 17 article is not reliable, and again, I'm not the one that's going to say it's as reliable as like an AP or a Politico or any of the other major news sources, but the fact that it's being mentioned in a news source that is owned in part by Disney makes me, and also on top of that, the fact that there has not been a retraction, there has not been a correction of any sorts, makes me think that no matter what Rian Johnson is doing over the next few years, it likely will be straight to the streaming service. And I explained why that makes the most sense to me in the video that I made yesterday, so go check that out video if you haven't done so already. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's going to be much less of a risk if they decide to go that route on the network and maybe give him a few short films instead of it being full-length feature films, which Bob Iger has indeed. Again, I am confirming, Bob Iger has said that they have no intentions at this point to put out full-fledged Star Wars films directly onto their network yet. They're not doing that. But does that mean that Rian Johnson actually is getting a full-fledged Star Wars movie franchise? We honestly at this point don't really know, because there's still a lot of questions as to what's going to happen. We've been told previously that it's going to be a full, feature-length film series, but also we haven't really heard much since The Last Jedi came out, especially with the wake of The Last Jedi, how he's treated Star Wars fans as well, because I'm sorry, they would be stupid at this point to ignore the fact that the toxicity coming from Rian Johnson and the people supporting him and all this other stuff is something that just cannot at this point be ignored. And if they think that they're going to be able to release a film directed by Rian Johnson in theaters as a Star Wars movie and do very well and make a lot of money off of it, you've got another thing coming. You would be much better off and much safer putting out a short film series of his, because obviously that might be more down his alley to make a shorter film series, kind of akin to what you see with Sherlock, where yes, it's technically a TV series, but each episode is an hour and 15 minutes long, so it's a little bit more grand scale. So yeah, you can totally still do that, save money on production, save money on marketing, and also not have to worry about taking a huge financial loss when inevitably if you did try to put it out in theaters, because let's just be honest, The Phantom Menace is a lot stronger and a lot bigger than you think. Yeah, you say, oh, we're just a vocal minority. It's like, no, obviously we're big enough to the point where even an article like this is talking about his trilogy being on the network and basically talking about how everything as far as the future of Star Wars is concerned is pretty much being focused on the network. You have not heard any official news about new films coming out. Keep in mind that for a long time we were hearing about, oh, we're gonna get, we're gonna get 2 films every single year. That was the plan. And then 6 months later, after Last Jedi came out, guess what? Solo lost $200 million, and that put a tire stop on that plan. And if they're just going to try and act like, oh, it was because of the proximity, I'm sorry, that argument does not work. We've gone over this constantly, that if you can get a Marvel film to be released between 6 months between each other, hell, this year alone, you've got Captain Marvel coming out a month before Avengers Endgame, and are you telling me that Captain Marvel therefore is not going to succeed, or that Endgame is not going to succeed? I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that Captain Marvel has a lot of problems at this point, especially because of that proximity, but I'm not denying that it's probably going to make some money, especially when you look to Endgame, is probably going to make even more than Infinity War did. So basically your whole flooding the market and doing too much too fast just does not hold up when you compare it to other comparable franchises, especially with the fact that Star Wars is an immense universe, is absolutely gigantic, and you can make so many stories from it. And I understand that this writer, Meg Dowell over at Dork Side of the Force, is trying to make that argument saying, oh guys, don't worry, Rian Johnson's trilogy, it will be better than The Last Jedi. Now, you say that only because you say, oh, well, think about all the things that he can do. But then you also at the same time ignore what he already has done, and also the very fact that this man is a self-professed bad writer. He has said it himself that he is not a good writer, and he proved it when The Last Jedi came out and all the plot holes came a part of it, all of the problems with Star Wars canon became a problem with it as well, and that pretty much has to do with his overall writing style and just lack of knowledge of the Star Wars universe. With all that being said, though, Dorkside says that its trilogy will somehow be better than The Last Jedi, and there it says, many Star Wars fans weren't happy with Rian Johnson's work on The Last Jedi, but his trilogy might exceed expectations. That might is a very key part there. We're less than a year away from the yet-to-be-named Star Wars Episode 9, and while we're counting down down the days. It's been fun thinking about everything that's happening in the galaxy in 2019. The more that time passes, the more opportunities we have to reflect on The Last Jedi, a Star Wars movie that did fine in the box office but failed to meet many fans' expectations for what a Star Wars movie should be. And there is no denying the fact that it did indeed make money at the box office. It did make $1.3 billion, but also that's $700 million less than the previous film, and also in the wake of that movie, a film, Solo: A Star Wars Story, which guess what? Was seen as a much better film by more fans than The Last Jedi, did not do as well and lost $200 million. And so therefore you have to take that you have to take that completely into account with each other, especially when you take into account the fact that yes, the Star Wars movie The Last Jedi did make money, but when you take into account production costs, marketing costs, it's not as much as you think. It's not that the studio made $1.3 billion. They only made 60% of that, and then you got to subtract the production and marketing costs, and it's not nearly as high of a number. Now, of course, you can do that with every single film that ever comes out, and I'm not just picking on Star Wars with that, but let's at least just be honest here when talking about these things. To be clear, I don't have strong feelings of negativity towards Johnson or the movie he made, but I understand why so many people have claimed to be disappointed or angry or whatever. Okay, so you say you understand, and then you also tag on at the very end of this sentence a totally, shutting down the discussion. Oh, I can understand why people are disappointed or angry or whatever. All right, so you just are totally dismissive of everything that has come out about The Last Jedi. There were things I wish had been different, and I don't know how Episode 9 is going to tie up all the loose ends, because guess what? It just dropped a bomb and ruined everything that that was set up in the first movie, and now there's essentially nowhere the movie can go unless it retcons a lot of things. But it was a decent movie. It just wasn't a movie a lot of Star Wars fans wanted. Okay, which is why I'm convinced anything Johnson creates in the Star Wars universe from here on out, as long as it's not another saga episode, is actually going to be amazing. To explain this, I'm going to talk about The Last Jedi, but I hope it reshapes the way you think about Johnson's potential as a Star Wars creator. So basically, you're trying to say it wasn't the movie that most people... I love how the narrative has changed. It used to be saying, no, the movie is amazing and you're just idiots. Then it became, oh, well, it's just a bunch of bots and the Phantom Menace doesn't actually exist. That's a vocal minority. And now it's, oh, I understand why you're disappointed or angry or, whatever. So they're still being dismissive of the feeling. They're still being dismissive of the Phantom Menace, but now at the very least they're taking a little softer approach. Or maybe it's just this writer in particular, but at the end of the day, they're trying once again to justify The Last Jedi. They're putting all this stuff out there saying, oh yeah, it wasn't, it was a decent movie, etc., etc. So they're starting to lose faith in it, but they're also still trying to justify its existence in the first place. More places and species. Yes, because, as it says there, maybe for you, the Canto Bight portion of Last Jedi wasn't great, took away from the main story, or didn't seem to fit, but if that had been its own Star Wars story, it may have been received better, or even adored. No, it would not have been, because a casino planet that was meant to take us into modern-day 2018 America and the entire world today is not ever going to be well-received, no matter what you do. A modern depiction of good and evil, I'm sorry, that's just boring, unexpected twist. Oh my goodness. Okay, so basically what you're trying to say is the worst parts of The Last Jedi, Canto Bight, the species, the new worlds that he brought in, the good versus evil battle, which was again very, very stupid, with Luke fighting with himself with no real explanation, and Ben Swallow and all that stuff. Unexpected twist, yes, Space Leia, everything else that came through it. So all of the worst parts of The Last Jedi, which you're now trying to defend, are also your reasons as to why the series that he's going to have, or the trilogy, or whatever it's going to be, is somehow going to be amazing. I mean, Meg, at least you were respectful. At least I didn't hear you say racist or sexist or man baby. So at least Dorkside seems to be growing a little bit. Or maybe they just decided to allow someone who's actually smart and intelligent to start writing an article, because I don't really understand it, because at the end of the day, even though you're being kind, you're also totally being ignorant of the fact that the movie is objectively flawed, and you just chose some of the biggest flaws with the overall movie. The various worlds that were brought in, like Canto Bight, the surprises and twists that were stupid and did not work and broke canon in many situations. Hyperspace ram, anybody. And then also to the overall battle between good and evil, because even though it would have been cool to actually see the real Luke Skywalker go to battle, instead what we got was a shadow of the former Luke Skywalker that had gotten totally destroyed by Rian Johnson. But that's just my thoughts. What do you think? Do you think that Rian Johnson has a chance? I can't wait to read the comments on this. Do you think that Rian Johnson could potentially do well with his own sequel, with his own trilogy, not within the saga, within everything else? Even this person, even Meg, says here that as long as it's not a saga movie, there is some potential there. So it's interesting that now you start to see the media say, oh, well, it's not the perfect movie, it's not great, but we're still going to defend it, and we're not going to call you trolls or anything anymore, but we're still going to defend it, and we're still technically going to call you because, oh yeah, you're disappointed, angry, or whatever. I mean, the condescension doesn't ever seem to be ending here, and it really isn't any surprise, seeing that they are a bunch of people who do not understand what we're trying to say or how to have an intelligent discussion. Maybe Meg does, because she at least, again, seems kind and seems like the type of person that would be able to do that. I can't say that for many other people in the media these days, though. Anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Let me know if you think that Rian Johnson could do better work in Star Wars, but just not in the saga. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, smash that like button, give me a thumbs up, and give me a subscribe. It helps me out a lot. You are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.